You know, I surprised myself a lot of the time, it seems, because I certainly did not foresee that I would be getting to catching up with Amaranth this quickly. And yet, I'm in an Amaranth mood. I just recently brought them onto the channel after consideration on part of many of your recommendations. They have been a supplied name, and I'd certainly heard of them before. Although, as I told you earlier on, I forgot about this with Amaranth. Usually the territory of artists that I consult in the European realm, and many of you know how much I love that scene, it's on first interaction basis. Largely on part of either a networking process, on part of the collaborative model between groups, is oftentimes how I find out about new talents, or on your recommendations. And you've certainly heaped on a substantial number that I've cataloged, and we're making slowly but surely a route through every single one. But Amaranth, I intended to cover. They are the one group off of, let's say, very recently in terms of who's made a presence, the Dark Side of the Moon supergroup, where I've spotlighted everybody else, and in some cases I'm in a process of spotlighting them, but Amaranth I hadn't yet. But as I said, I forgot about this, that prior to bringing on specifically European music onto this channel in such a grand focus of first coverage, and many of you I've said in the past that music for me very much is a true first aspiration in my life in the artistic world, and I've wanted to encapsulate the shared journey that music can have, especially for me. I love the collaborative model of sorts that we can have an exchange of entertaining works together, sometimes for a first time. That doesn't often happen. Amaranth, funny enough, I regarded them as, well, they were at least going to be a first impression until I realized that I'd actually humored them a number of years ago when I was just rolling around basically on YouTube being like, okay, European music, because I wanted to broaden it out aside from some other mainstays I'd humored at the time, a limited selection, and I've substantially broadened out since. But I hadn't entertained them before. So covering them yesterday and introducing myself to newer works of theirs, as I said, the count of tracks that I considered, this was already the one we're about to consider with Crystalline, both versions in two different videos to be specific on how that's going to roll out. That was in the selection. But this morning I actually went and bought most of the tracks I'm consulting outright. So it seems that we're heading down the Amaranth path tonight. I'm just kind of in that mood. But again, European metal just kills it for me. I love that space. And on the Swedish side, I'm having a real fun time with their rock mainstays. And I've cataloged many groups on this channel, whether it be first exposures or references that I've... in every case, it's been first exposures. First exposures to particular tunes or to the band. Sweden is a hotspot for fun entertainment, especially on the electronic rock, punk rock side. I love what I'm hearing, and Amaranth was a real gel. Again, going in, I knew, based on my history and reflecting, that I actually had heard them before, but on newer pieces, fun journey to take with you, and to have a simultaneous journey in exploring with. And this one's going to be particularly interesting, because we have a duality version for the track. I haven't done this before in terms of original works versus, have I? Maybe I have. Usually in the territory of, we'll call this a cover, because this song did get a new addition through the orchestral version. I cannot wait to hear that. Anything with symphonic vibe, I'm like, yes, gimme. But we're going to associate two songs together and maybe compare which one for me is stronger, right? This is the original version as part of the Manifest album, which is, to give a prelude, that is the album that I've picked a selection of tracks off of to spotlight Amaranth in, I think, a fairer share of work. Because I limited it down to basically 4 tracks. I'm like, I spend so much more time with other European groups that... why not go bigger with them? It just seems like, why wouldn't you? So, the count is now extended to 8, I think. So, we have broadened out. It's an Amaranth night, though, and I can't wait to hear more of their work, especially as a first-time listener here, and I know many of you, I'm sure, have listened to this track already. You're getting the perspective of somebody who, again, is a first-time listener. I'm sure there are many Amaranth longtime fans in the discussion, and on consideration of watching my coverage on this and my feedback, maybe there's some of you who are in the same position as I am on a first-time listening to this track, or perhaps exposure to Amaranth. You're going to like them. Unlike a power metal influence of a real electronic kick, they're a killer. And their vocalist, Elise, really impressed me. Enrique, I know he's no longer a part of the group, but oh man, I love the scream presence. And Nils, I can't speak enough in regards to his personality on vocals. I love him. Can't get enough of it. So, Crystalline. Let's humor this together, get an introduction. For the orchestral version, we'll be humoring later so that we can do an interesting comparison, right? We can look at Crystalline in two respects. I haven't done something like that in terms of comparables before. It's going to be fun. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the song. Yes, I got it right here. All right. And if you're not familiar with the way I format my videos, perhaps my coverage is new to you. I try and accommodate listener taste to the best extent that I can. So if you want to read along with the narrative of the piece, the lyrics will be provided to you in the video, and you'll see those pop up as soon as the song starts. Now. More Amaranth. I'm thrilled. I had a great time last night. That was for PvP and Fine Life. Love those. This already has an orchestral opening. No wonder they chose to adapt it in New Lens.
My precious faith gone lost and found. Still thinking of you.
Oh, it's a soft voice on part of Elise. It's an emotional number, very romantic and tragic too.
I didn't close my heart. Will we ever see? Will we ever love?
Great race inflection. Elise is a truly capable dynamic to where she can reach in terms of her vocal tonality. Great matching on part of the piano effect. Ah, it's wonderful. Such character. Crystalline. Okay, I'll get the pronunciation correct next time. How sweet. See, I love his raised inflections. Spoken in sentence. Great duality role on part of its romance picture. Is that in Lee's or is that like an orchestral choir background? Because either direction, it's beautiful. That's her. Oh good, I'm looking at advance on the lyrics. There is an overlap. Like they have to. It can't just be a compliment in isolation. Great drop. I love the isolation there. Those vibrations mixed with the overlap. Great keyboard pacing. That's on part of, do I have a credit here on that? I might. Olaf, I believe. It's an impressive piece. If there's any, I think of maybe, let's say, past adaptations that I'm used to in terms of bands thinking, let's take this in a new form, right? Fallen in Reverse, for example, comes to mind. Maybe you're not familiar with the name. They're American metal. And even that space, they're varied. It's metal, punk, they've done rap as well. I mean, Ronnie Radke is just a great vocalist. But he did this with I'm Not a Vampire, right, from their initial release, I believe, or one of their initial releases. And he did later a symphonic gothic version as like a vampire story. It was totally reimagined. And it was beautiful. It's such an exquisite tune that, in that case, it's a bit different, let's say, from Crystalline. Because you consider the track an original release, and it's much like a mainstream radio hit rock number, or punk rock, what I would call it. And yet, the song takes on a whole new artifice and energy with a symphonic flair. It was a truly incredible reinvention. So I've seen this done before in other spaces. This is a bit different in that it feels like already a faithful pathway, because there's orchestral dynamics to this song as well. And this is a little more subdued from what I'm familiar to in terms of Amaranth. Granted, I'm much earlier in my days and younger by comparison to a number of you. Or maybe, yeah, younger's better than earlier. wrong descriptor. Let's be accurate here. Many of you outrank me in terms of duration of familiarity, I'm 100% sure. This song is very faithful to an orchestral tone that you think of, what's it going to sound like in consideration upon a reimagining, and it just makes sense. It's a faithful path forward. I can't wait to entertain it. If it goes down like the more symphonic route, what are the influences going to be there artistically? Because here, I love the vocal balance. It's a great romance piece. Crystalline, it's enchanting enough, but the balance between Elise and Enrique might not make a performance here because, again, his vocal set is much rougher. Admittedly, it's fun, but this is more of like a romantic, soft, sentimental number, right? It's different from at least the library of what I've exposed myself to in terms of Amaranth. Obviously, they have quite a diversified feel of capability, or field. It's an exquisite tone that, I think of it, again, like I said, it stands in its own individual presence, but it takes you away. It's beautifully written, too, on part of the lyrics. It's easily enticing. My precious faith got lost and found still thinking of you. Where was the other one? That coming. Still burning for you. When will I be forever locked inside of your heart? It hits. And I'm a lovesick single guy. This is some music that, like, I wish, I drown my singleness sorrows, and like when everybody else is like, oh, we've humored romance, we know what it feels like. I'm like, just share. One day, God willing, whenever the time is right, but I don't know. In the meantime, I enjoy sentimental romance numbers that at least paint an illusion of what it feels like. Exquisitely, though. Crystalline's a beautiful piece. I love the orchestral dimension to it. It really is, like I said, a field of a different individuality from what I'm used to with Amaranth. But the vocal blending on part of Elise and Nils, whether in isolation or the overlap, thank goodness there was an overlap. Like, I needed to hear the balance and his vibrations. I just love Nils. Love hearing him. And Elise as well. Elise has such a dynamic range to her voice, whether it be in pitch or in energy and style even. She has so much range in her gifts. I'm very impressed with her. And again, I'm still early in my days, right? I'm going to abstain from using early. Because I made the mistake of that before. I'm much younger in my days in comparison to a number of you. And maybe some of you are kind of approaching from the dynamic that I approached Amaranth originally, being a total newbie. What were your thoughts on that piece? Again, I hope in some part that my content does sow seeds to explore greater talents and greater depth. And for some of you, I do hope there's a diversified field of approach, right? I welcome, of course, longtime Amaranth fans. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the piece, as well as maybe in advance, again, I'm sure the videos we published on the same day, but which one of the pieces is your favorite between the orchestral version and Crystalline? We're going to humor the orchestral in a minute in terms of first-time listeners. And for those of you who are, again, getting a fresh perspective on them, does this compel you to look deeper into Amaranth? Are you excited to hear maybe a reinvention? I'd love to hear down below. And how does, is something of more of an orchestral drive gel with you, right? If you're, a mainstay Amaranth fan, you prefer the more frenetic direction, does this still appeal? I'd love to hear about that. Because again, I consider the metal landscape, and it's quite broad in terms of, being a subjectively determined, preferential field of taste. It allows for a variety of respects. It's the character that really charms me here. I mean, I'm a big orchestral guy, so it obviously appeals to me being, symphonic metal is a beloved subset of the metal scene for me. But I love something with picture and atmosphere, and Crystalline just manifests this romantic vision on part of its exquisite vocal work, too. It's really an enamoring piece. Truly exquisite. Thank you so much for watching this video. Before you bounce, feel free to drop a like and comment, subscribe to this channel with a ding on the bell, and share this video with your friends. And consider checking out the description here. There you'll find links to my other channels, as well as addresses to my other social media accounts and ways you can help support my work if you feel so inclined. May God bless you, and looking forward to when our paths cross again.